Welcome to Chasing K-Dramas, the podcast that dissects popular Korean dramas episode by episode. We dive into the characters, themes, and everything in between. I'm Dulcé Sloan, and I'm here with my co-host,
Chrissy Choi. We have a really exciting episode today. We are joined by an amazing guest, Jeanie Chang.
Hello.
Hi, Jeanie. How are you?
Hi. Good. That came out like a song. I mean, but I'm good, as you can tell. Awesome. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're so excited to chat with you. So Jeanie is a lot of things. She is a therapist. She's an author. She's a speaker. But she's the founder and CEO of Noona's Noonchi, which is a global wellness company. Do you want to share a little bit more about what you do, Jeanie?
Yeah. So you said it. Licensed. I guess the core of my work is licensed family therapy. So mainly working with grief, trauma, burnout, resilience, mindfulness. Okay, the list goes on. But that's my clinical work. But I bet say about 75% of my work now is also speaking, like you said, in workplaces. So I'm also an expert in workplace mental health because my background is I was a reporter and then went to business school and did some dabbling in corporate America where I realized mental health wasn't a priority. So when I decided to start from scratch and follow my calling, I went into family therapy and now used all those resources today as a speaker in workplaces. It's become global because Noona's Noonchi is a global wellness company. It's headquartered in the US, but also in Seoul, South Korea. Where all the K-dramas, which we can talk about, happen. So, and so it's really exciting being, I would say, do we say bi-coastal? No, bi-ocean, whatever. Both sides of the ocean.
International?
That's it. Thank you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Sometimes I'm in Korea and I'm like, what's the word? Yes, international. Thank you. But I'm excited to talk about K-dramas today with you, specifically a specific one. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
international wellness brand. Oh. At least you're not selling candles and goofy stuff.
No. Yeah, we could talk more what we're selling. Yeah.
No, but we wanted to have you on because we've seen your stuff on socials, which is really interesting. We love the way you tie in mental health, a lot of like psychology, and the way you analyze K-dramas. It's so interesting. And the drama that we're analyzing or that we're watching now is Marry My Husband, which is very popular. Our fans love it. We've had so much engagement. I feel like just every time we post anything on socials or our episodes, people are just like in the comments going back and forth. And one of the things that we do, what we've realized like recording the podcast is these characters in this drama are so complex and they're so layered and there's just so many things happening. So we wanted to bring you on to kind of explore the different character arcs of these main characters and kind of get your thoughts on, what kind of makes these the characters act the way they're acting, what makes them tick, and kind of like delve into that. So yeah.
Happy to. I was going to say they're definitely layered in this one, Marry My Husband, but also all of them are like that, I feel like, in K-dramas, when you break down a character. So we could probably take the entire episode to break down just one of the characters in Marry My Husband, but we'll kind of divide our attention. So I'm excited to deep dive today.
Yeah. So, I mean, we always, like when we start, we ask you're our second guest, which is very exciting.
Yay.
But we started in our last interview, the question we asked was how you got into K-dramas. So I'm just curious, like what got you started watching? Yeah.
That's a very layered question, but growing up second generation Korean American, I was born in Seoul. So technically people would say, oh, you're first gen. But I'm like, no, I say second generation because I came when I was a baby. So like 5 months old, even though I was technically born in Seoul. Raised in the US, and growing up, a lot of my life was feeling very othered. It's a very big, the Korean diaspora is so complex of just feeling like they don't belong. And so that was a lot of my upbringing. And I really, in all honesty, disliked being Korean because I didn't really see a lot of representation in the media. And I grew up, so I'm going to date myself. And when you grow up in the 80s and you really don't see much of yourself, and then people even asking questions like, so like, what are you? And I'm like, I'm a person. No, I would answer, I'm Korean. But they'd be like, okay. So, and I kid you not, they'd be like, so where's that? Yeah. Now, we live in a different world today. People know what it is. But yeah, growing up, it was like, so is that China? Is that Japan? I'd be like, oh my gosh. So in that sense, as a teenager, you just want to fit in. And so I didn't feel like I did. And so a lot of me with my Korean culture was very distant until I was 18. And I attended the summer, a Yonsei University program in the summer of 1992. This is where I want to say that epiphany of me interacting with the Korean culture. Now, I visited Korea, by the way, every summer until that point. So it's like same old, same old. But when you're 18 and you're entering a program with other people who are your age, who are also Korean Americans, it changed my life. And that was the summer of the K-drama called Jealousy. In Korean, it's called Jutsu. Yeah, Jutsu, yeah. And it changed my life. I saw it and I went, wait, she's kind of cute, Jeju, who sadly had a sad ending. And I actually write about her in my book because she made such a remarkable impact on me that was the first time I thought, let me figure out my culture. Is it cool? And that's the first time I actually was curious. Before I was like, I wish I was this. I wish I was not Korean. And that was my first K-drama. And that was basically the rest is history because it made such an impact and the K-pop was building at that time. Yeah. And so since then, it was a rediscovery, self-discovery. And then when I decided to go into mental health, it was a no-brainer. I didn't go, let me bring in K-dramas because it made sense. K-dramas were my self-care since age 18. So I would watch them for fun, watch them to get through motherhood. I have 4 kids. So watch them to get through motherhood. And I'd be like, oh my God, I need to watch a K-drama. And then seeing other moms and parents and families. And then being a family therapist, it just made sense to tie it into my work. And so that's a little bit of why I tie it in so much. But there's so much to uncover through a K-drama story or K-drama stories, right? And so that is where I am today. So watching and haven't looked back. And actually when I'm not doing well, I'm like, what K-dramas am I watching, right? To help me when things are very stressful. So it's a really big part of my life.
Yeah, that's amazing. I also went to Yonsei. I went to Yonsei for a study abroad program for 6 months. And that's where I also connected. Yeah, that's what I also connected with like my Korean side because I grew up in the South and yeah, so it's so funny. But I remember Jihyuk too. I was really little then, but my parents loved it. So we watched so many Korean dramas when I was growing up. So I definitely remember that one. I was really little, but it was such a, Dulce, this one also had like the iconic, like, it had a kiss scene where like the camera goes back and all of that. Which
love a camera angle.
Best friends to lovers. That's what this one is. So it's like one of those tropes.
I got into Korean dramas because Atlanta has I think it's like the 3rd largest Korean population, like the country. And so where I grew up in Atlanta is Gwinnett County, and so that's where everybody was up in Duluth. And so Atlanta had their own Korean TV station called KTN. I was just flipping through, and there was a show called Bluebird, which I, to this day, have never been able to find. And no one knows what I'm talking about. But that's how I was able to go, what's interesting? And I learned, and I started learning about Korean culture. And then I saw the acting, and everybody wears glasses. If you are a young professional trying to get out of the house, some glasses are going to be nice around, and they're going to be popping. And you're going to hate your stepmom. Or your current mother, or your father's second wife. So that's how I got into it. My mom's favorite show, she was pretty. And she was like, girl, it took them 8 episodes just to hold hands.
Yes.
Did you say welcome to K-dramas?
Listen, hello, mommy. And that's why she liked, but she said, I like that they ain't hopping in the bed together. Yeah. I like, it's like you see an actual love story, which I really wish sometimes on American television, it's like, it's always a race to get somebody naked. And it's like, let this man carry you on his back and be drunk. Come on.
I know, exactly. Or like, oh my gosh, they grazed each other's hands in like episode 8. So I was going to say, that's part of why I think it's really good for our mental health. You don't see explicit sex scenes. It's generally PG, generally. So it's like, your kid can walk in the room, or family members, you're not going, let me flip the channel. You're like, this is a family drama. And you just witnessed them kissing for the first time since, in episode 15. You know what I'm saying? So I think a lot of people love that. And there's that anticipation, right? That longing. So that's a huge selling point of K-dramas. In fact, people go, what's the difference? Why are they so good? I'm like, well, people will always say we're not trying to knock on Western television. I'm not trying to do that because obviously there's some great stuff out there. But the truth of the matter is Korean dramas are pleasant and comfortable to watch, which does matter to our well-being. Even though people are like, oh, it's so predictable. I'm like, you say that. I have clients go, that's so tropey. I'm like, really? Really? But then you get upset when it doesn't, go along with the trope. Like, for instance, when a couple doesn't end up together, everyone freaks out, right? I'm like, there goes your non-trope. But then yet, I think it's funny how they complain about it, right? But then I realize, no, you need the tropes. So predictability is also a big part of K-dramas. That is also good for our mental health, meaning we know what to expect, even though our brain's saying, I've seen this before, it doesn't matter. It's actually very, I want to say in trauma, if we're talking about trauma, it's a trauma prevention when you know what's going to happen and you feel that comfort. This is in your real life, like when you can predict a schedule, when you're in control of that. K-dramas kind of go, oh, this is the love triangle. Here's, you know what I mean? Oh, here's second lead syndrome. So when that's
second lead.
That's a whole other episode, okay?
But why do you think they've gotten so popular with American audiences?
Yeah, and not just American, European, Australian.
Oh, Brazil is huge.
Yeah, everybody. So, well, I'm going to tie it to mental health. There's universal themes in K-dramas. So, people relate to people. K-dramas focus on the people. It's not plot-driven. So, you're focusing on the CEO from poor girl turned rich. I mean, you know what I mean? It's all about their journeys. And that's the top reason why it's relatable. Because again, we'll see, even if you see a wealthy CEO, let's talk about the famous trope, but then you don't relate necessarily to the girl that the CEO fell in love with, but you relate to her emotions. So that's my second point. Because we're talking about people and K-dramas outline these characters so well, you are relating to everything they're feeling, from joy to sorrow to trauma to success. And again, it doesn't and people go, oh, but that's not me. I go, I'm not saying it's you. In fact, half the scenarios we don't relate to because that's what makes it a drama, but we sure do indeed relate when they're crying because somebody broke their heart or their mother and them can't get along. Or, you see a guy crying because he hates somebody and they're trying to do revenge, right? So all of those are just universal. And when I say universal, I'm things like depression's universal, anxiety, happiness, joy. So someone could argue with me till they're blue in the face, but I'll say, hey, people get depressed across every country, race, culture, whatever. People are happy across every race, culture, And so that's why they're relatable. And here's a very important thing to share. They came about, now they've been around since 1992, hence when I discovered them, or even before that. But they went global thanks to streaming sites. Netflix, Amazon Prime, Disney Plus. But they really, really went global thanks to Squid Game. So I always bring up Squid Game because it's not my favorite show, but it's very well done. And even though I watched and then had to close my eyes and then had to watch something happy, I was like, well, this is well done. And I can see why for a Western audience, they were like, what is this, right? And then there's a lot, even though there's a lot of killing, there's a lot of meaning behind the characters. And you're seeing the gut-wrenching decisions of killing each other, And that made it kind of catapult to a fame level that people are like, oh, I did see Crash Landing on You on Netflix, or what's this on Disney Plus? So that's another reason why they also went global, because we had streaming platforms where I grew up with VHSs. That's how I was cracking up when I was like, yeah, I remember putting it in my VHS. They're so accessible. And then when the pandemic happened in 2020, before Squid Game, people were anxious. So as a therapist, I got extremely busy in the pandemic, so, as you can imagine. And people were saying, I'm so depressed. I'm like, that's actually how Noonchi happened, where I went, I'm going to start bringing in K-dramas in my support groups online. And I did. I brought in Startup. And I outlined this, very loosely in my book, saying Startup was the catalyst to me going, I'm going to put this on some content. You know what? I'm going to do this in a workshop because I'm a corporate speaker. So I've been to the Amazon, not Amazon. I've been to the Apples and Google where I'm like, hey, you guys are talking about, stress in the workplace. Here's a clip. So I will use K-drama clips. Now I have deadpan faces sometimes going, like they're like this. And I'm like, yes. I'm like, sir or ma'am, you have a look. What is that look? They're like, no, I'm just trying to. Okay, I'm seeing this. Okay, Asians, they'll say it. I'm so used to so many different responses, but what I go, you can focus on that, and that's a fun scenario. But focus on why is that person crying? And the minute I ask questions like that, I can get an audience crying in corporate America like that. They're like, I don't know, but I'm crying watching Hometown Cha-Cha-Cha. I don't even know what it means, but why is this guy crying? And I'll break it down. So that's what I do. And But sorry, going back to the pandemic, people were extremely stressed out, depressed all over the world. We were in lockdown. What do you do when you're in lockdown? Well, let me scroll on Netflix and okay, let me just talk about what's happening in the U.S. in 2020. Well, we were in the middle of a very contentious presidential election. We had COVID, which we didn't know about. There was so much happening, anti-Asian hate, to all this racial divide. So people were like, I need something comforting. So they turned on Netflix and went, there's this Asian show. She's pretty. He's good looking. Let me play it. I'm talking Crash Landing. And then they played it, and here's what made it stick. What they watched, they liked. And it didn't matter they didn't speak the language because they saw emotions. But then not only did they see emotions, they got to express emotions. All of a sudden, I have grown men saying, Jeanie, yeah, I don't know what made me cry in Crash Landing, but I was bawling like a baby. You know, and then you break it down, going, oh, maybe because you saw bromance, or you saw like a strong friendship, or you saw family conflict that maybe you felt safe expressing that. So that's what K-dramas have done, and that's why it sticks. Again, people relate to people, not plots. We like the plots; they're fun, but it's really about people, and that's what K-dramas do so well. Also, they do such a good job with them because who writes the K-dramas? Women.
Yes.
So 95% of K-dramas are written by women,
which is
women.
very interesting. As someone who is as two people in the entertainment industry, and like I didn't want to cut you off, but I'm just like,
no, you're good.
I think for a culture that's very male dominated. For this to be an industry that is worth billions of dollars and women to be the writers of these shows, that means that grown men are sitting there going, we got to let these women, they're making us so much money. We got to let these women write these shows. And I think that's why we get to see the emotions that we get to see. I think that's why we get to see, because I did not realize how much I enjoyed seeing a man cry at a Korean drama until I was watching Joseon Attorney. And he is crying about, I think, his parents being dead and him trying to get revenge. And I realized I was smiling. And I didn't realize I was smiling because this man was crying. And I don't know if I was happy for him that he was crying, or was happy for me to see a man cry. But if you're watching a Korean drama, you're going to see a man cry.
It's in every drama. And if you don't, I'm like, what happened to the crying?
And so that's where I'm just like, I needed to see this. I need to see a man, like, I can't remember what drama it was, but the love interest, this man, the male lead got a text from the female lead, and he's in bed and he's kicking his feet like a teenage girl.
So excited.
Strong excited.
Strong girl, maybe? Strong girl Pongsoon sounds like
I think it might be strong girl
Yeah.
Pongsoon.
Yeah, as you can see, there's so much to talk about, right? So, like, where should we begin with that show? Is there some place you want to begin with? Like,
I want to start with, I think the best place to start with is, like, the most extreme characters and then kind of, like, whittle our way down. So, for me, the most extreme character in this is really Soomin. Because because like episodes 10 is coming out soon, and I think the thing that makes people so interested about Soomin, one, the thing I love the most about Korean dramas is that as a kid I loved the villains and things to the point my mother said she was worried about me. But I love the villains and things because their story was so much more interesting than just being like the Joker is so much more interesting than Batman, right? And so the thing that Korean dramas do well is that they make you have empathy for your villain. And while Soomin is in the midst of doing all of these awful things to Jiwon, you still have sympathy for Soomin. So like she betrays her best friend for Minhwan, like to steal him from her. And what do you think like drives Soomin's behavior? Is it the trauma? Is it a lack of self-esteem? Like, what is the main driving force behind Soomin's behavior?
So I always like preface when we're like gonna analyze a character a little bit like, okay, so this is just loosely based. It's not like a patient that I'm seeing, right? It was a patient that I could kind of state it, but in all honesty, I mean, you've heard this, hurt people,
right?
There's a lot of truth to that. So clearly, with a little bit dramas. Oh my gosh, I can't even say it. Dramatization. There we go. Dramatization with a little bit of exaggeration, you know, in the sense of, so it's obvious for the viewer to see. She is one that has had no validation maybe in her entire life. As like, this is why as a parent and also as someone who's a family therapist, parenting or child rearing or your guardian or whoever's raising you is critical to your whole identity formation. So I'm going to just go back to what we still know of her story. She had none of that. She, if anything, just wanted to be, here's the cliche, wanted to be loved. You know, she didn't quite get it in the way I believe everybody deserves, you know, as a child deserves. So right then it's like, you know, when you don't get that and then you have somebody who actually is like a horrific mother or like a terrible mother, in some sense, like verbally abusive, and then a father who's negligent or they're all negligent, then flip a switch to a kid that probably flipped a switch sometimes somewhere in the teenage years where we all actually go a little berserk anyway, even with like a good upbringing. We are jerks to our parents. I mean, I remember I was. And then I'm raised teens, so I kind of see it. But that's where she flipped a switch a little bit. But you know how like sneakily it's like a sociopath? That's kind of the closest thing I could think of her, where you can lie dormant in those crazy tendencies until they come out. And it just happens to be in this drama where it's coming out with Jihyuk, her second life, she's different, right? She's, and we'll talk about her, but she is not the person that she was in her first life. So even though Soomin has no idea, right? It's not like, hey, you're not the same person in the first. She's just seeing Jihyuk being very different than how she was, which was somebody she can control because Jihyuk was very vulnerable. And in some sense, didn't think much of herself, right? Same thing. Basically, Soomin and her are not any different. It's all about personality. Jihyuk just went this direction. Soomin went this direction. Right. But Jihyuk was, in all honesty, this is why community is so important, was saved by the guy that loved her, right? Meaning he believed in her. When even one person believes in you, you'd be surprised what happens. Soomin, obviously, you think she's all popular and has like that. What is it? What's that?
The high school friends, all that whole.
The bullies.
No, the husband. Yeah, her husband.
Oh,
Minhwan. Yeah, Minhwan. Yeah. Even she thinking that, she clearly doesn't even have that, and she knows it. So all her behavior is so. I know I don't have any real community, so I'm going to keep acting worse and worse to latch onto something. So it's like when you're sleep deprived, the more it's like less sleep begets less sleep. So even if you're like trying to do more, it ends up like kind of working against you. So she's in this crazy cycle of a self-prophecy of like, oh, I'm so needed. I want to be needed. But then the very thing she needs to do is not doing what she's doing, you know?
Right.
So her behavior worsens as Jiwon's confidence level goes up.
Right.
It's like, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm going to go there. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go like this. Yeah. So.
Right. And one of the things I also noticed too is that, you know, there's she's jealous of Jihyuk, right? Clearly, like throughout all of this, throughout their entire relationships, because I think when you go back and you see Jihyuk, yes, her mom was really not a great mom and like abandoned her, but she had her dad. But it seems like Soomin never had that. She didn't have both parental figures. So I think she often like coveted and she was very jealous of the love that Jihyuk was getting from her dad, which kind of drove her to like, you know, go terrorize her, go after everything that she had. Like, you know, she liked this guy Uno, right? Her first love, and she had to come in, she had to sabotage that. So it's basically her whole point in life is to sabotage everything that Jihyuk had, which is like so sad, you know?
It is sad. I was going to say one thing, but because I've seen some people in real life who actually have a similar story of Soomin. Yeah. And they also can be jealous of maybe their supposed best friend. But it's a choice it's almost like you have a choice. You will continue to love that best friend. You're still, by the way, people who are good friends can be jealous of each other. It's just how they manifest it. They could be like, oh, Jeanie, I'm so envious of you. Or Chrissy, you're so lucky. But you could still be very good friends having that because there's something there that they just want. Maybe a good marriage or a good best friend, whatever that is. Soomin didn't have any of that, but that doesn't mean someone like her can behave like that. Does that make sense? Like, I want to say, just because Soomin had that very difficult upbringing, and it is sad, I've seen many people have that very difficult upbringing, and it's sad, but turn their life around. Right. So that's I want to say that. I go, just because you have this crap life does not mean you can behave crappy for the rest of your life. But you can choose to do that, which Soomin did, and actually continued to do so, right? The more she realized, even this guy, she just wanted to control him. She could care less about it. She basically doesn't care about anything or anybody really, except, in all honesty, Jihyuk in a very twisted way. If Jihyuk had actually had the same second life as the first life, she'd have no problem. In fact, she'd probably be her savior and be like, oh my gosh, I'll do anything for you.
Interesting.
Do you know what I mean? You've seen pockets of that. She's like, oh yeah, I'll do anything for her. And there are moments about, okay, it's like a sick twist, but a moment of she's actually kind in a twisted way because she has Jihyuk a little bit more vulnerable. But I'm not justifying that. I'm just saying you can see that it's there because she just needs to feel needed, belonged, something she never had. And actually some people don't know what that feels like, which is why they're craving for it, but they do it the wrong way.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Love it.
I wanted to ask about Minhwan, as we've named him, trash ass husband.
Trash ass. So
Because
it's Hussy Soomin, and Trash Ass Minhwan.
Oh, okay,
Right.
got it. Trash ass husband. Okay, yeah.
And so, listen, I think as a society, we latch on to these different terms, right? So when I've been doing stand-up for 16 years, and so when I started out doing stand-up, everybody was calling each other, oh, this person's a sociopath, and I was just like, I don't know what that means. And I don't think you could be diagnosing people like this. This doesn't seem like a good idea. And then it was like a psychopath and a sociopath, and now everybody's running around calling everybody narcissistic and saying that everybody's on a spectrum. And I'll have comics have these comments like, well, I think this person's very narcissistic. And I was like, I don't think any of y'all went to medical school. I don't think any of y'all barely got out of high school, and we're sitting there diagnosing folks. Y'all need to chill. But the term narcissistic, I think that, again, one of those terms is being overused because it's the new term that we're all using now. Because none of us went to medical school, but apparently we all wanted to go. But listen, I saw my friend's nursing book in college. She changed her major and I supported it. But is Minhwan is this truly a narcissistic character? Like, is this what textbook narcissism is, when you're just sitting up going to Webster's and being like, this is narcissism? Because he's a trash ass husband, but there's so many aspects to him that makes him such an awful partner and then just a bad human being.
So, just to preface, by the way, I love that actor. He's in so many good comedies. So when I saw him in this, good. I'm like, I can't take you seriously like this, but I'll try, because he's more of a comic. And he does some comic relief, too, the way he acts over dramatically. So that's a tough question. I need to ponder it because you're right. I love that you prefaced this by saying narcissism is so overused. When I hear somebody say it, I also internally roll my eyes, because I go, this is a narcissistic personality disorder. It literally is a diagnosis.
Right.
So sometimes I'm like, but you could say, someone's like a narcissist. So I could see people saying that. But, I refrain from actually saying he's a true narcissist. You know why? You look at his mom. He had bad, terrible parenting, meaning his mom was like a brat. She's a jerk. So basically like mother, like son, and so she taught him that behavior. So I see that being more of a family trait, if that makes sense. And then maybe if we had to go back, maybe it was her father. Because I'm a family therapist. I look at families and generations. Maybe there was that narcissistic father or grandfather, but that trash ass husband himself is just a trash ass person and husband who was brought up to be like spoiled brat, and he's a jerk, but not quite. His behavior doesn't show quite narcissism. It only shows it to her. A narcissist, true narcissist, shows it to everybody, and you don't see that. So that's my 2 cents. I have to look at all dimensions, especially if I'm going to diagnose. Going, hey. All right, so let's observe you in the workplace. Let's observe you with your mom. Let's observe you with, the CEO, the coworkers. I don't really see that. And so, again, we're only seeing what the K-drama is showing us. But to Jihyuk, yes, he's a narcissistic husband. But I just think of him as, I like your word, a trash ass person, husband. A spoiled man that's a jerk, and wanted to do whatever he wanted because that's what his parents did to him. I see that in real life too, but I don't necessarily think of them as narcissistic.
He also seems, so the way he's treating Jihyuk, he also treats Soomin. Like once he gets Soomin, the same behavior comes out. So, you mentioned his mom, and obviously his mom's awful, but I wonder if there's an element of him disliking women. Like just because I wonder, because he's literally treating Soomin the exact same way, even worse actually, because he's adding the fact, like with Jihyuk at least, he was like, Jihyuk's smart. She works hard. But with Soomin, it's like, you went to an average school. You're not that smart. You're just pretty. And like, he's doing all these things to her because we're about to recap episode 11 and 12. It's just appalling because he's just like not a kind person. And you're just like,
you're right.
Wow. So it's like, is it,
but
does
look
he
at
just
how
like
he treats
women?
his mom? How does he treat his mom?
I mean, right now it's, he said something, there's like this random line where he says, oh, well, I think he's really upset. Oh, he finds out that Jihyuk is the heir to UNK, and he's really upset. And he says, "Oh, what were my parents doing? They were just like lazy. Like I deserve that. Like so it's not like he's really even nice. He's trying to use his parents, right? He's trying to get his mom to buy him a house. Like that's the whole.
So he can sell that house to cover his debts. That he has.
In all honesty. I mean, yes. I mean, maybe with women, but it's also not just women. It's like behavior he's learned, So I always look at a child and what behavior patterns they learn. This is like me going in depth with somebody who's like, you're a terrible person, but I know you also learn that behavior because that's how we learn things, and we also unlearn things. So his mom had some terrible behaviors, obviously, to Jihyuk when she was her daughter-in-law, and we still see that even now, even to Soomin. So the whole point is she herself wasn't treated her. So I would actually still refrain that he's not the narcissist. It's somewhere along the previous generations. He's learned that behavior.
Generational trauma.
You know what I'm saying?
It's generational trauma. So he is the product of
what he's learned.
What he's learned.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean. That's just my analysis. Because I still don't see it. I see him as like honestly, a week old,
like a baby,
vulnerable,
big old baby.
Little kid who shivers in front of the sea. I mean, you know what I mean? That's not a narcissist. So even though narcissists obviously can have a facade, there's still internally that like, dude, you all suck. I'm better than you. I don't see that at all in him. I see him as somebody who Jihyuk eventually was like, you idiot, right? I didn't see this, and it's her new. Just stronger self who's become more resilient, believing in her own self.
Yeah.
She's totally, in some sense trumped him. So a narcissist would keep doing the trumping. Do you know what I mean? Like somebody who keeps going, and then somebody who's like more downtrodden. And I actually see him very downtrodden himself. So again, I'm not even trying to be empathetic. It's just me going, yeah, you poor soul. Like, it's actually like, like, oh my goodness, somebody help him. Right? That's how I see him. And so if I look at his mom, and maybe I'm thinking maybe his mom's mom or his mom's mother-in-law, that's where I would go. Right?
And his poor dad has zero agency in that family.
Right.
He doesn't say a word.
Oh, and that's another example. When you don't see that, right? You know how you, like, so it's like, I'm trying to give another example of a K-drama. Oh, actually, there's so many. But when you don't see something that you wish you had, then you can become that person. So here's an example. When someone this is kind of hard, grows up in an abusive home, they try hard not to be that way. But that bad thing can happen too, where someone sees their dad's like pathetic or like, oh my God, my dad can't have any 2 cents against my mom. I'm so not going to be that. Right? So I'm not saying I'm going into his brain. He might be thinking this, but we will never know because we don't see any internal monologue with him. But I'm just saying, maybe he's thinking that, going, hell no, I'm not being my dad. He's so lame. I'm going to be the opposite, right? And that's still not narcissistic. That's narcissistic behavior, but not necessarily a narcissist.
He's pathetic the whole time because I think, like, as women, we've all dealt with this kind
of man.
If you're a woman who deals with men, or you're a person who deals with men, we've all dealt with this kind of man where it was just like, everyone's against me. Everyone's not doing what they need to do for me to succeed. So like, why weren't my parents rich? Like when you meet somebody who's mad that they didn't grow up rich, you're like, but didn't your parents still take care of you?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Your parents still took care of you. You could have been completely successful, and it's like, you get to this point where you're like, you just feel bad that like you weren't given what you thought you deserved, and now everyone has to give you what you think you deserve, and it's like, I'm still not paying for this dinner, bro. This is still a date.
Yeah. And by the way, people like that, or people who kind of have that tendency, may never become happy because they choose not to see the happy part of it. You know, that's actually a lot of work in therapy going, that does sound like a horrific situation, but this is me, how can we have you look at this and navigate it in a way that you can get through this and not be like, woe is me, my life sucks. And actually, I'll be honest, human nature is we look at ourselves and going, woe is me. Misery loves company. You hear misery loves company as that saying. Do you hear something like happiness loves company? I've never heard that. I mean, that is what we want, but you tend to hear misery loves company, woe is me, because that is human nature. We will go toward that negative immediately. You'll have a good friend. Yeah, because it's just our brain works. It's easy to see. It's just easy to see that. For instance, I'll just say you have a good friend, Chrissy. Chrissy and you are gelling. She does one thing wrong. You're like, okay, like, why'd you do that? I've been in situations where I'm like, I came late to a meeting once, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, but you were like 10 minutes late. I'm like, OMG, like, forgive me. I just went, wow, that's just our tendencies. We don't go, wow, you came late to this meeting, but you know what, Jeanie, you've been on time for every 100 meetings, so great. We just don't do that. I mean, I could get into, I don't know, we can get into like mindfulness, but just our whole brain just works that way. It's just easier to go, you suck, before we see, you're great. You know, we have to work on that. You're great. We will easily go to this whole world is a problem. And so I'm not defending.
Yeah.
What's his name? Minhwan. Not at all. But he's just showing that negative tendency 100%. And that can be human nature. You know?
Interesting.
So that makes me think of Jihyuk, because it's like he has.
I adore him.
Everything.
Yeah.
And he's still this sad man who's been holding on to this woman he met one night.
Yeah.
Years
Is that
before.
the K-drama? Yeah.
And because like there's a K-drama, because there's always a K-drama trope of they're falling in love, but they met years before. Yes. Like we walk into somebody.
The childhood trope. The childhood
trope.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody is just like, they met when they were in the womb. Come on, K-drama lady. Come on, sis. Come on, writer lady. This is insane. Or like in Queen of Tears, where it was just like, oh, he saved her from drowning. Even though the other one lied and said at one point we were doing it, I was like, who saved this bitch?
Oh yeah,
like,
I totally remember that.
Who jumped in the water and saved this girl? But I always thought there was an interesting trope, because there's like the fate of it all. So the idea of Jihyuk, I think,
I love him.
When we get to the part of the drama where he's just convinced, that he can't change his fate, while he's watching Jiwon change her fate.
Yeah.
I think it kind of, I think that plays into his kind of like sad kind of, just like his kind of just depressive state that he's in. Because even though, because it's like you're watching somebody do the thing you want to do.
Yeah.
But then you're telling yourself, I can't do the thing. It's like, sir, you already went back in time.
Yeah, remember that whole scene where they discover they're both listening to the same BTS song?
Yes.
That's a critical scene. I remember going, wait a second, what just happened? Rewind. Well, my whole point is, what was my whole point? Oh yeah, like they're both living their second life. First of all, no one really does that, right? So it's like, in itself, I think it's actually good that he wants to have this longing of changing his own life, but he's actually witnessing and I think we see it, the happiness of the girl that he loves changing into somebody that she's proud to be. And then remember the scene when he discovers she doesn't have cancer? Or did I just, is it a spoiler alert? Okay. Hopefully not. When he discovers that, he realizes, he asks some questions going, well, don't you have stomach issues? She's like, well, how do you know that? And then he realizes, wait a second, she doesn't have that issue, which she had in the very first episode, right? Yeah. Which she actually, So a lot of that to me is super cool. So even though we see him kind of sad, he loves that woman so much.
I think we all know of Minhwan, and then we all know of Jihyuk. And so I think sometimes you see people who, if they're not in this place of service, then they don't know who
What to
they
do.
are.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered about that because I'm like, what has to happen in someone's life for them to go, I have to always be helping other people? Because there's like the thing is like, I want to help. And then there's the thing, it's like, I have to be doing,
help.
I have
Or
to be
I
of
need
service.
to. I
need to
you
be of
know?
service. And I need to be of service to someone that I love. But I can never love that person all the way because I can never be that close to somebody. And I think that's always been an interesting, because it's like we've all met men like this and people like this. And I think Jihyuk is like in the way that like we've all met, like I say, men like Minhwan and men like Jihyuk. It's we teach in the same way. It's like this the other side. Like we teach men that for them to have value, they have to be of service. And if they're not doing something,
men always have to have a solution, right? So it's like part of in their DNA. You just reminded me of something that I meant to say like a couple of statements ago, that even with I'm just about to lose my train of thought. With you're talking about Minhwan and we see the hero of the story, you know, and we see Jihyuk and we see Minhwan, complete opposites. But the truth of the matter, realistically, is men fall in between. I always tell people that. I go, hey, yes, they have both traits, believe it or not.
Yes.
Like, even the most favorite guys in the world, even my husband, I'm like, yeah, today you're a Minhwan. Do you know what I mean? Or like, today you're, and I'm just being honest, because I have to remind people that when they get a little like, this is who I want. I go, you mean a K-drama character that's over-dramatized, that I also love because he's great and all that stuff, but then the reality is people are actually a mix of two. So I'm bringing this up because that is why we also love K-dramas, because we see such distinctive characters that give us that hope that it's cool to see. But I always refrain when someone goes a little delulu, like, you know, a borderline, like, so I need to bring you back. And sometimes I'll actually say, I need you to stop watching. For a sec, sometimes like, I think I need you to stop watching.
Oh, goodness.
Just for a little bit. Because when they're a little like, this is the person, I go, this is a K-drama character, right? I mean, you can find someone like his personality.
Or like the Mr. Darcy situation where we're just like, listen, I watched a lot of PBS growing up, but I think I might have missed that particular show.
Wait, Pride and Prejudice?
Pride and Prejudice?
Yeah,
girl, we got to do a rewatch of that. I have it.
That's
the 3-part series with Colin Firth.
Colin Firth, yeah.
One of the things that I wanted to kind of ask you too is, it's kind of connected, because what I'm seeing a lot, because, you know, obviously our show, we have a social presence, and there's a lot of, you know, people who get very worked up about these topics, right? We have K-drama fans who are very passionate. We also have a lot of overlap with K-pop fans who are also very, very, very passionate, as you know. And what I'm seeing is there's a little bit of, you know, internet bullying. People are not the kindness in the comments, right? I'm tying this into this drama because one of the things, and this isn't just in Marry My Husband, but a theme that we see constantly in Korean dramas is bullying. You know, I'm thinking like The Glory, like, that was really rough. I'm curious too, and you may not be able to speak directly on this because, you know, obviously you're a Korean American, but I'm always very curious when I'm watching this. And I always ask my parents, I'm like, why is bullying so intense in Korea? Like, why are kids, you know, you watch these shows where kids are constantly getting terrorized. It happens in America too, but I just feel like it's a very common theme in a lot of these shows. And I'm curious, like, have you ever what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I do have my own thoughts on it. I've actually witnessed it too. I do business in Korea, right? So Korea is a very hierarchical culture.
Right.
So it's all about respecting the elders. That's where it comes from. So we are literally rooted in Confucian philosophy, which is all about respecting elders, you know, obeying, filial piety, obeying family, serving. So you have that even in the workplace. Serve your boss.
Right.
So you don't say no. So that's where it comes from. So when you have such a top-down kind of approach, there's so much stress. So then that stress continues. So if a CEO bullies that person, or let's just say CEO bullies, you know, like vice president. Okay, let's just go there. That's what the vice president is going, you know what? I can't wait to do this to someone else to let loose my stress. And then so that horrific pattern continues. So I see it also as part of the family. A family pattern of trauma happened, and then it repeats itself because it's not stopped. Bullying can be stopped. Bullying can be addressed for sure. I'm actually starting to see Korea improving that. It's still a major theme because it's historically been there, but I have seen it addressed, meaning now there's some, human resources things in place. Now people can go straight and complain. That doesn't mean it will necessarily be, solved, but they have a voice, which I had heard maybe 10 years ago, not so much the case. But I see it even in like my own little, not my company, but my own like tourism industry, where I'm just like, oh, I just saw him do something. It's not bullying. It's more like, you do this because you just started, so I can do this to you. Does that make sense? And so that pattern continues. But this is how someone can break the pattern. Leaders can break the pattern. If we're talking about workplaces, teachers can help students unlearn that. I myself, in owning my own company, I stopped that. When I saw that being done, I'm like, here, give that thing to me. I'll hold it. And I held it because this person was trying to give it to someone else going, well, you should hold this because you are below me. But I use an example going, I don't care. It's a freaking thing. I'm gonna hold it, even if I know my place as the CEO of the company. Does that make sense? So even my own person on the team was doing that because that's what they learned. And that's what they think, well, I am 2 years above her, so I can act this way. So again, it's rooted in like a philosophy of education that's actually still part of the education, except people are acknowledging bullying, like that term, is unacceptable. So I'm seeing that now, but I know for a fact, if your social status is kind of high, if you're well off, they also use that because it's all about, Korea's a lot about that social status. And that is still very much part of Korean. Sometimes I'm like, I don't care what university you went to. Like, I'll hear someone going, we're having a conversation, like, yeah, but I went to this university. I'm like, that had nothing to do with our conversation. But again, it's all about what education you had, and that is Korean culture. So as a Korean American, decades later, in my 50s, I've learned to accept it. Like, I'm like, that irritates me, but I've learned to accept it, but that doesn't mean I'm not doing anything about it. I will change the patterns and say, okay, that's fine, but I don't care if you went to this bit because you're not a fit for me. You know, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it's all about who's going to change the needle. And this is where I say K-dramas and even K-pop music songs, they're seeing these stories, and I do think it propels some change. Like, the classic example that really did a number was Extraordinary Attorney Woo. People saw that in Korea and went, oh, wait a second. Oh, autism. Even though she's high on the spectrum and it's one portrayal, it made them think, wait, what is autism? I think I've seen, I'm good with that. As long as it makes people question what they're seeing and going, is this right? Is this wrong? I saw that in Korea because I happened to be in Korea that summer, and I was like, this is so cool. When people are like, Jeanie, so like autism. And when I hear those questions, or even Jeanie, so mental health, what is it? Mm-hmm. I think that's cool from coming out from stories. It just happens to be in our world, K-dramas. But again, there's beautiful films out there, Gilded Age, everything like, there's lots of examples. I just happen to use K-dramas. Yeah. So, I mean, I just hopefully kind of sum that up, just saying that there is that bullying, people seeing how horrific The Glory was, by the way, that being kind of loosely based on a real life case. Well, guess what? That happened. That brought that case up to light, and people decided to reopen that case or like bring it up and going, that is unacceptable. Isn't that cool? That came from a K-drama story. It's horrific. That's a real life, loosely based on a real life case, but it brought it to light that people were like, oh my goodness, no way is that acceptable in society. I saw that and saw that as a positive sign of what that drama did, to go, how could someone do that? Oh my goodness, that happened in our culture. Well, we don't want that. And so that's what stories do, right? Yeah. See how horrific people are, but also see how beautiful people are. And it's both. And mental health is both, by the way. When people go, but this is very traumatic. And so how is that beneficial to my mental health? And I go, well, it's traumatic. Yes. So if it triggers you, you can stop watching. I always say that. That's in every video I say, you don't need to keep watching. But mental health is also about the good and the bad and the ugly, the beautiful and the horrific, because that is life. Like, and so we need to learn to navigate the terrible things in our lives for hope of a better life. Does that make sense? Or like to be our best selves. I love that saying, because I do think we should always strive to be our best selves, but we're constantly doing that. There's no one. When people go, I'm trying to be my best self, I go, you mean you're going to continually trying to be your best self? We are continually evolving. We're still living. And so it's an everyday process, mental health. And so if bullying came to light, which I see it's happening through K-dramas, and it's being addressed, it's going to take time for any societal change, right? But yeah, so that's my long-winded way of answering. That's real.
No, I mean, I think it's super helpful just because, again, I think in a weird way, as like a Korean American, you know, I grew up in the South, so there weren't that many Asian people, right? We were like the only Korean family. So I feel like sometimes I feel like I grew up very cultured. So obviously, like, you know, those are, you know, those values, like you know, my family raised me to be kind to others and all of these things. So when you're watching these shows, and I just kind of had this like very naive assumption that every Korean person is like us, like, you know, like they're all, you know, they're kind and all these things, benevolent and all those things. But it's just fascinating to me every time I watch, like even Squid Game. Like Squid Game to me was really jarring, to be honest, just because it feels more like a Korean movie more than a Korean drama, just because I feel like Korean movies are darker and they explore like, you know, societal issues in Korea. But it was super jarring because it's just such extremes. But again, even in Squid Game, you see those themes of like what you're talking about, like, you know, in Korea right now, there's a lot of, you know, haves and have-nots, right? The economic disparities of people are very extreme, and people are treated a certain way because of that. So you see all these things, and it's just often, you know, when you compare like a Squid Game to like a happy drama, or like, you know, the family dramas that we like watching, or like the romance dramas, it's just so different from each other. So like, you know, so those are just things that that I think about. But bullying,
it gets us thinking. But I will say this, when you're in South Korea, and I say this a lot to people who come visit and I'm hosting them, and I see it myself, you see more of the beautifulness. You actually see what you see in the K-dramas. And actually I can attest to also for like what, I don't know, 150 people who have been on my tours who say, oh my goodness, I'm leaving Korea loving it more than ever. So I say that to end in a happy place in the sense of this is really important. Yes, society. By the way, no society is perfect. Some people are like, "Oh, I hate America."
We're not we need another 3 hours to talk about America.
I mean, I know there isn't. No way there is. I don't care if you say yours is. I even say, "Oh, really? Like, I've never seen any society perfect." No, there's no such thing. And by the way, people go, "I'm always happy." I go, "There's no such thing as always happy." You can feel like foundationally happy with who you are, but happy like every day is kind of abnormal. You know, there's a moment.
Thank you. I didn't hear that. So sad every day is abnormal. Happy every day is abnormal. And I know we need to wrap up, but I do have a question because, like, because one of my friends, he was also a stand-up, and he went to like Guam and like South Korea and Japan, and he brought me some stuff back from South Korea. But while he was there, he kept texting me. He's like, "You have to come here. You have to come here. You have to come here." And is there anybody like? Are there anybody who comes? It's like it's. You know, like it's kind of like the little bubble popped because they have this one view. Not that they think like, oh, this place is so beautiful, or I get to see things in real time. It's like when I went to England for the first time, I'm like, why is it so small here? It was like, oh, because this city they invented this place when the years had 3 numbers. So is there anybody who like, we have these tours, but are there people like, not just like, you know, Korean Americans or like non-Koreans as well that get to Korea and go, oh, this is a real place with real people. TV is fake. Like, is there ever kind of like we just see somebody go, oh man, I do my.
So I'll be honest. I actually hear so I have not met those people, but I hear about it online. Like people going, Korea ain't all that, whatever, and I'd be like, okay, that's your opinion. But so far, the people I host, including myself, first of all, it's daily life. That's normal. But overall, the beautiness of what you see in the K-dramas, by the way, we didn't even talk about the concept of Chang, which is that emotional connection that you see in Korean culture. I see it everywhere in Korea. So to answer, a quick answer would be no. I don't see people going, oh my goodness, this was not the country I thought.
Good.
No. I tend to see the opposite. And by the way, no one would believe you because this is the great thing about Korea. They absolutely love foreigners. So they see you and you say 안녕하세요, and they'll be like, oh my God, 어머. And they'll be like, oh, you're so pretty. No, trust me. Then they see me, they're like, you're Korean. They'll be like, oh,
Beat it,
Dulcé,
nerd.
oh my gosh, your name's so pretty and you're wearing leopard. Why don't you go on one of my tours?
Yeah.
We would love to go on one of your tours.
Let's
Because
discuss
don't you
it.
do the
Let's
K-drama
discuss it.
tours? Don't you go
Yes.
to the studios?
Yes, hello. Not only studios, we're actually going real life to like, I don't know, what's the K-drama you just mentioned? You just said something.
Oh,
like Joseph
Samdali?
Attorney.
Samdali.
Or Samdali. We go to all the Samdali sites at Jeju, right? And so when life gives you tangerines, which I also highly recommend.
Dulcé's so
those
excited
sites.
right now.
Yeah. Hello. I will roll out the red carpet because I've really enjoyed this interview and you guys need to, we'll talk about this.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know. So thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
thank you.
Did I even answer questions? I hope so.
You did you answered all of our questions. Okay. I can tell you as interviews go, this would make the most sense to somebody who's been interviewed a lot. Sometimes people do not know what they're talking about. And sometimes I just hang up the phone and let my publicist call them back. So I really did enjoy this. Also, you were like, you had other ideas and you were thinking, because you kind of made it easy for us because everything you were talking about fell perfectly into the questions that we had.
Thank you so much for having me.
you.
Of course, thank you for coming.
So nice meeting you. Thank you
We'll
so much.
talk offline.
Yes.
Tours.
Yes.
Korean Air. I'll call them.
Go on.
No, that's right.
Bye.
Bye.
Chasing K-Dramas is hosted and executive produced by Dulcé, Sloan, and me, Chrissy Choi. I edit the audio and video, and our production is led by Thomas Yuen from TY Media and Go Get 'Em Productions. Our artwork is designed by Yaicecream. We're an indie podcast, and we're always looking for fun partnerships. If you're a brand that's interested in sponsoring your chases, or for your fan who just wants to stay in touch, please check out our website at chasingkdramas.com.